the Draymond thing. Here's what I would say. Two things about Draymond Green. Part of this is just right now circumstantial. I do think that it's interesting to treat Draymond Green a little bit like bench energy. Doesn't mean you actually have to bench him, because it doesn't matter to me who starts, quite frankly. It is more important who finishes, and it is more important how many total minutes you play. So if you still want him to be in the starting lineup and have him come through the tunnel and everybody, that's fine. Don't worry about that. But I would lower the minutes and start tinkering with him coming off of the bench as an energy, defensive, kind of stabilizing guy. I would experiment with that. The other thing I'll say, though, is this may be over in one more game. And actually, it might already be over. Because circumstantially, tomorrow is San Antonio, and Draymond has a wonderful history this year in frustrating Victor Wembanyama defensively. And then when they next play after the All-Star break, Steph and Porzingis might both be on the floor, which I think totally changes the calculus for Draymond and makes him a lot more playable again.
Agreed, and I think the Steph piece is the big one because we know how he plays with Steph, and you would figure that he can play with Kristaps as well, a guy who's a veteran and knows exactly how to play basketball. But that is what kind of struck me last night. Not all the turnovers are created equally, but he's playing with, younger players who he's not used to playing with probably. Pat was out there a lot. He was in the starting lineup, and Guy's a guy getting more minutes than he normally would. D'Anthony Melton, he's only played with D'Anthony Melton really just this year and, a touch last year. So there's still some of that. Quentin Post was out there as well. So I think that Draymond is at his best when Steph is there. And when Steph is not, maybe he tries to do too much. You said something earlier about older players, and what I'm seeing from Draymond, and I'm going to ask Steve if he agrees and sees this too, but he's trying to take too many shortcuts with his passes where
that's interesting.
He gets the ball, and there was one turnover yesterday where he got it in the backcourt, and he threw a long 50-foot diagonal pass, and it was easily intercepted.
Yeah.
And those are the plays that I think when you get older, you start to look for shortcuts in your game. And I'm seeing that from Draymond.
Probably. I mean, and Grandy, maybe you could help us remember. What was the game where Draymond did that, just Ferris wheel pass to Quentin Post? This is 5-6 games ago. And he grabbed the ball on defense, and then it was hucked at the length of the court, and it was easier than a Jaquaski tart. It was just...
Was that in Dallas, beginning of the...
Sounds right.
Road trip a couple weeks ago?
Sounds right. Yeah, sure. I know that it was about 5 or 6 games ago. I know that Quentin Post was the intended target, and I know that it was my least favorite pass of the entire year.
Right after Jimmy went down. I think it was the second game they played without Jimmy.
Okay, yeah. Let's go with that. And that sounds actually similar to the one that you just described.
Yeah.
The same thing. It's dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're way too... Dude, you're brilliant. He's brilliant on the floor. He knows basketball better than some of the coaches in this league.
But you said it already, and you're right, where your mind is still working 1,000 miles an hour, but your body's moving about 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So you see something, and you're used to being able to do something, but now the body's not cooperating like it used to, and I do think that you start to cheat a little bit, and you start to take shortcuts, and that's where long passes against younger players, and almost everyone's younger than Draymond now, it's going to be dangerous.
Basketball savant in Danville. I wonder if this is Draymond himself. Hello, basketball savant. What are you doing?
Hey, guys. I'm just driving home right now, but I had to talk about Draymond because I love Draymond, but I know how upset fans are with him right now. And I think what we need to do is we need to play him in shorter spurts, like you said. If you're giving him, 30 minutes a game, don't cut it in half, but maybe down to 20. And if you treat him like a rookie, not like a complete rookie, but if you treat him like Jonathan Kuminga, where every time he made a mistake, you get him out of the game, maybe he would get his head out of his you-know-what.
Well,
risky.
I think basketball savant, you can even hear it in your voice as you're saying that. That's just, A, that's not doable, and B, the Warriors would completely, I don't want to start this argument, but the Warriors would completely disagree with you that that's how they treated Jonathan Kuminga. I know that that's the narrative that many want to leave with, which is that Jonathan would constantly get punished for mistakes and get pulled out of the game. I think it goes way deeper than that, and it's much more conceptual. If you watch Warrior basketball, they turn the ball over 23 times. They're all making mistakes. They're all making tons of mistakes. But what are they attempting to do? What stylistically, what decisions are they making in that process? Again, is how the Warriors would answer with regard to why the Kuminga thing went the way that it did. And boy, it would be awesome if we could just fast forward another few months so that that's not where all roads lead.
Yeah.
But you can't treat Draymond Green like a brand new baby because he's not. So
No,
you just can't.
But you can start to limit him a little bit, and I think you're seeing it now. And I'm just looking at the third quarter last night. He played 5.5 minutes. He had 4 turnovers in those 5.5 minutes, and that was it. He came out of the game, and you tried him again in the fourth quarter, and he played about 4 minutes, and it wasn't working, and you took him out again. So I think that Steve Kerr and the coaching staff, they're now looking at it like not as a punishment or we need to limit Draymond. If you don't have it, you don't have it. It's like a starting pitcher. If you go out there and you're Logan Webb and you give up 6 runs and it's the top of the third and nobody's out, you're coming out of the game.
Well, I think it also just, you got to go with circumstances and matchups. Tomorrow night might be a game that Draymond does finish if it's close because he has done well with Victor Wembanyama. Defensively, it's kind of like if Denver were in town and if we're close tomorrow night. I think that he has more know-how in defending Jokic than anybody, quite frankly, maybe even in the league. But when you get one of these games where it's like, all right, we're playing a team where nobody's heard of anybody, like these are the Portlands of the world, the Memphises of the world. You got a bunch of 6'8", 6'9", lanky, long 23-year-olds running around, and they can jump, and they're not like a finished product. You can tell it's a young team. Like, I think Memphis' closing lineup, nobody had turned 26 yet.
Wow.
So, like, when that's all, but that also means they've got a lot of athleticism. They're moving fast. They're unpredictable. That's not Draymond's jam. That's when I'd be like, get him out of there. Get him out of there. Draymond can play on the thinking man's games. But when Portland and Memphis and whoever else, all of these young teams, pull back on the Draymond.
Yes, and they have pulled back on the Draymond.
Yeah.
I think if you look at his game log as far as minutes and even his season minutes this year, they're down. They're not down as considerably as some would like. They're always going to continue to play Draymond some because he is a stabilizing force. He is a good defender, and quietly, he's knocking down threes. He's averaging 11 points a game this year, which is the highest it's been in about a decade. So I know he's been needed to score more, but the 3-ball actually has been quietly kind of a positive for him.
You can't remove that from last night's conversation. You can't make it all negative. Yeah, he was, how many threes did he hit? 4?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they don't win that game without him doing that either. But 7 turnovers is 7 turnovers. Rob, Fort Costa, what's going on? Rob, thank you for calling.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up?
Hey, so my whole thing with Draymond, and I'm going to piggyback off what you were saying, where you're kind of talking about how when they're playing these teams that are young and whatever, it's like it's not that it's that they have length and they're excited. He's just disinterested. And if you have a guy that's refusing to play because he's disinterested, you can't play him. Especially you can't start him in a small ball lineup. It's just if Steph's not there and they're playing what they consider a poor team, he hot dogs it. I mean, there were plays last night he didn't even come back to play defense.
Disinterested is Rob, I'm not saying you're wrong. That's a big word, though. That's if you want to have that conversation, we can have it. You actually think that Draymond is disinterested?
And I'll tell you this. Just watch how he plays against the Spurs when he has Wembanyama to play on this next game, and then rewatch the last game where he doesn't have something like that to get up to.
Yeah,
it's like he picks and chooses when he really wants to go at it.
I mean, I'll say this in your favor, Rob. Thanks for the call. He has openly admitted to stuff like this before. Like, remember back when the Warriors were better, and he talked about how difficult it was in February on a Tuesday.
Get up for Orlando.
Whatever, I got to get up for. So, sure. I think disinterested is a big word. I think Draymond would be offended by it, but it also doesn't mean it's wrong. Draymond does get everything all go. Karl Anthony Towns is in town, and now Draymond's arms are flailing around, and he's thrusting his hips, and he's getting up to defend that. When you haven't heard of the opponent, he does have a way of sort of just disappearing a little bit more.
Yeah, and he certainly made an imprint in that he had 7 turnovers in the game, but the game before against L.A., at L.A., and he played 33 and a half minutes, and he was a positive 11. Even though they lost the game by 6, he was not the problem. Game before that at Phoenix, he played 24 minutes. He was a -1. He was largely a non-factor.
And off the floor at the end.
Right. And, against Philly, his bobblehead night against Detroit, he played 33 minutes. He got teed up, and he had only 2 points in a loss. And so I do think the caller's right to the extent of he's not always revved up, giving it his all. And Draymond Green is one of the smartest basketball players in the history of the association, and he knows who they are and where they are. And who they are is the 9 seed, and where they are is probably in the play-in game no matter what. So do you really want to go complete basketballs to the wall all game, every game? Probably not.
Probably not. And
with no Jimmy and no Steph?
Yeah, and if you're, if you're not him, maybe. Like that's why, I don't think we're gravitating to Pat Spencer and Guy Santos because they're so amazing. We're gravitating to them because of the energy that we feel from them when they play, and that energy comes from the fact that those two dudes felt like roster filler a year ago, and now they're solidifying their NBA careers. Like they're going to be rotational players for the rest of their lives. And Pat's been around for a while. He's well into his 20s, but Guy is still a young player. These guys are solidifying their spot in this league, and so that's why they're playing so damn hard, and that's why we gravitate to it right now. Draymond, I don't want to say doesn't need to do that because people will be like, yeah, you do. You need to but right. It doesn't usually work that way for players who have been around the block this many times.
And if you go back to Draymond's second year, I just was glancing at it to see, and he played in all 82, and he played with that same hair on fire, Santosian energy because he, quote, had to. Second round pick, second year in the league. You had to show that you were the real deal. And so he played every game, and he played, more than 30 minutes a lot down the stretch. He became a starter. They made the playoffs, and the rest we know is history. So it's hard to ask a vet without your 2 best players. Make it your 3 best players if you add Kristaps in. So you're supposed to be equally motivated in year 14 to go out against Memphis on a Monday night.
Well, you can't be, and that's human.
Right.
Like, I'm actually not bothered by that. You can't be. You cannot be as hungry as the Rook.
Right.
You've made $250 million.
You've got 4 titles, and you're going to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And that's why I don't mind the way Steve Kerr is, quote, handling the situation.
I mean, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to be hungry at 6 o'clock.
You always are hungry.
I'm not going to be as hungry as I'm not going to want it like somebody who has a hard time getting their next meal.
Correct. It's a good way to put it.
That's not human. I think that's a part of what we're talking about with Draymond.
Yeah, and his basketball hunger, it'll kick in April in the play-in games if, they still are in the play-in. And I was looking at the standings earlier, and it's almost impossible for them to fall to 11. So
totally.
You get to April, he'll be hungry, and Steph will be hungry because he loves to compete. They want a series, and hopefully Kristaps is there. Whatever. The young guys right now, they're straight hungry. Their NBA hunger is real because, Pat Spencer just got a contract. And Guy Santos wants to stick and stay in this league,
Yep. I mean, that is at the core. I'm so sorry to bring it up again. I mean, that's at the core of what happened even in the Jonathan conversation.
Look at you.
The guy, no, but he wants to, that's why it gets so emotional. He wants to make an imprint. He wants to solidify his place in this league. And that is, I think, for all athletes, fans sometimes have a hard time with this. That's emotion number 1. It's not winning a ring. It's solidifying your place in the league.
Self-preservation.
That's number one. Number one, I want to do this for a living. I want to make as much money as I can. You know, this whole thing where, we play for the fans. Sure you do. You want a contract, then you want a ring, then you want all the other stuff that comes with it. And yes, you would like to connect with your audience. Sure. But number one, I want this job, and I want this job for 15 years.
Right. And Guy Santos is making $2.2 million, which is not chicken scratch.
Good salary.
It's a nice little salary, but you look at some of your teammates, and Moody's making 11.5. He got 3 years and 39. So if you're Guy and you're 23 years old and this is the last year of your deal, you're thinking, okay, Warriors, you're going to want me. You're going to want to keep me. If not, hey, other team, I'm worth probably between $7 and $12 million a year.
It's no different than any other company. Guy is sitting there making $2 million, and you're like, that's great money. And he's looking at one of his teammates who made $2 million both just this week. That's Steph Curry.
4 games.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Actually, even a little bit less,
3 games.
right?
I apologize. He makes about $800K
second quarter of that fourth game. He's like, we're there.
Yep.
We're there. We're home. Big J in Oakland. Hi, Big J. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Hey, you guys. I think you do with Draymond what Steve Kerr did with him last night, which is bench him. I think about a month and a half ago, Draymond said in a press conference he's going to throw those passes no matter what happens. He's kind of dissatisfied with the group that he's playing with, and they're young and they don't understand how he plays, so he doesn't care. He's just going to make the passes anyway. And I think that sort of approach and attitude is a little bit poisonous for the team. So, in the long run, I appreciate more the effort that the young guys are making. And, of course, everyone's going to make either incidental turnovers or bonehead turnovers. And I think Draymond is just consistently making more bonehead than incidental, and it's kind of costing the team in close games.
Interesting. Big J, thanks.
Yeah, I always bristle at the idea of the B word.
Well, and I bet Steve Kerr would say I didn't. Like, right. he was like, do what you did last night, bench him. He's like, I didn't bench him last night.
Bench him. He just went with other guys.
I subbed him out.
Right.
Yeah.
And, to me, a benching is when you give a guy a DNP CD. Mm-hmm. That's a benching. Like, Kuminga was benched. You don't get to play for about a month. That is what a benching is. This is just, look, you don't have it tonight, kid. We're going to go with other players and see if we can win, and they did.
Your earlier point about, shortcuts is a really interesting one when you look at Draymond's box score last night. Because even him making 4 threes, he shot the ball 7 times, 6 times from beyond the three-point arc. And I would argue that if that's what you're doing, I could also make the case that you're settling. Like, a three-point shot takes no effort. The ball just moves around, and if it gets to you when you're open, you fire. It's a little bit of a settle. It's also today's game.
Yes.
But Draymond scored 14 points last night, and we've also brought up the 7 turnovers. Well, here's the other part. He often gets a lot of rebounds and a lot of assists. Not last night.
No.
4 rebounds, 2 assists. Draymond's box score would suggest that he didn't really again, I'm not saying, but I'm just looking at the numbers. Looks like he didn't want to move last night.
If you wanted to put the name Buddy Hield next to that box score, I'd believe it. Yeah. That was a Buddy Hield game.
It was.
Hot from 3 and didn't do a ton else, although Buddy would never have 7 turnovers. Jimmy wouldn't allow it.
That's true. You would get benched after about 4.